Hi, this is Roger. Thanks for dropping by. This is my regular everything in bloom on the 8th, and I'm going to do this in parts because I want to get some of the shady characters out, including something a bit special. Well, two things a bit special. But with the main plants, the ones I can get at easily, I'll do those first, and for a change we'll go left to right, because for some reason I always go right to left. So we'll start over here. And I know that's against the sun, and it's deliberate. This is absolutely gorgeous. -1. I'll probably knock that, because these are not starting to go over yet. This is the one endearingly labelled houseplant. Quite honestly, looking at it, it looks like it's got a fair bit of Miltonia in it, looking at the shape and the colour scheme, come to think of it. But whatever it is, it's highly likely to be an intergeneric in the Oncidium alliance, and that's about as close as we're probably going to get. Although several have suggested, and I think I agree, that it's highly likely to be Tahitian dancer. But it's difficult to absolutely confirm, but I'm reasonably certain as well, so we can probably reasonably safely put that one away now. And then coming down here, this is, it looks like a Twinkle, when in actual fact it's not. Or is it? Which one are we looking at? Yes, this is the Twinkle. So I've got two that are so similar they're difficult to tell apart. And this is Twinkle Red Fantasy. Not strictly speaking red, it's pink. And these blooms are starting to go now. It was bought in bloom, so it's difficult to say how long they would have lasted naturally. And both of those two plants I've just filmed. For my talk, it was suggested, and I totally agree, that at some point I ought to show getting some store-bought plants out of their pot and see what we're up against. And both of those two are candidates. They're both new acquisitions, and they haven't been repotted. So I'll get them into that video as and when I get a chance. Right, coming down here, this Latoria is starting to go now. Some of the earlier spikes are starting to drop some blooms, but nonetheless, it's probably been in bloom 3 months now. Oh, and the fragrance of the next one I'm going to film has just hit me as I got my nose a bit closer. This is a primary cross. It's Dendrobium polysema crossed with Dendrobium aberrans. And in the smaller blooms Latoria group of hybrids, aberrans is in nearly all of them in some shape or form. Somebody actually asked about the terminology. For new people it might be a bit confusing, but basically the terminology is a species. You can go somewhere in the world, out in the wild, and find it in the main, although some are extinct and are therefore only found in cultivation. But basically it determines a plant that would naturally occur in the wild as a single species within a genera. And a hybrid is a cross between two plants that are of the same type. So you're basically looking at, it could be a species crossed with a hybrid crossed with a hybrid, or a species crossed with a species, although they're given a special name and called a primary cross. But that's basically a hybrid. So two types of dendrobiums crossed together, two types of oncidiums, that type of thing. And then when we get onto the intergenerics, this is also a hybrid, but it's a combination of two plants in different genera. So that would be like an Oncidium crossed with a Miltonia, for example. Now they are both in the Oncidium alliance, but they've been given their own classifications within it. So again, it could be two hybrids crossed together, yeah. And with the intergenerics, you can go deeper. You know, you can end up with up to 4 or maybe even 5 genera included in the final particular plant. So that's a bit of terminology, just for some that haven't come across it, I suppose. Yeah. And now round to smelly pants. This is Oncidium Twinkle, and it's the cinnamon variety. For me, out of the ones I've got, this is the one with the strongest fragrance. I won't say it fills the room, but you don't have to get that close to know that it's about. And certainly today it's probably at its strongest it's been since it opened, because there's a little bit of sun coming through the glass. That seems to fire them off. I do like the yellow one, but I think because of the fragrance, this one just takes it as far as favouritism is concerned. Although, quite honestly, plants that bloom are a favourite of some sort or another. And those that don't, yeah, well, they're on the hit list. We're working on them. Right, I'll have to do one bit separately. The Cattleya cernua was sophronitis once, got reclassified. Is still out, but it's certainly not going to be lasting much longer. What have we got? We've got one set of blooms here. From that set of blooms is from one growth. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 actual blooms on there. And most of the spikes are now going. You know, they're dropping or have dropped their blooms. We're only left with a few spikes now, and those would have been the last to open. And this plant will probably then have a bit of a rest. It will probably do nothing for quite a while. It seems to have set into that pattern now, and after blooming, it just stops. Nothing much happens. And then sometime down the line, not always the same amount of time, it'll start pushing out the new growths. And the goal is to get all those new growths to start at the same time. Because if they do that, they will all bloom at the same time. Yeah, so, which is what happened last time. And the time before, actually, although not quite a spectacle as this time, I must admit. Gorgeous colour, delicate little blooms. Yeah, that's that one. Coming round here, this little phalaenopsis is still hanging in there. It's still got one bloom open, and again, it's its delicacy that I like. It's just a nice shade of pink with spotting, and a nice shape as well. You know, it's okay. It's small, but it's got more to come. The previous spike has got an extra bud on it now, and this spike looks, the one that's out, looks like it's going to extend as well. So that's that. Up into the gods, the Cattleya spike over there is gone now. It's funny how that went down in a couple of days. But this one's still hanging in there, and it's still looking good. And we've probably got about another month with this spike, if it lasts as long as the previous one, which was a very long time. I think that opened towards the end of October. You know, we're well into January now. For a Cattleya, that's pretty good going. Some of them only last a couple of weeks, 2 or 3, but they seem to last longer when it's cooler. You know, if you get a winter blooming one, it seems to last a bit better. Right, coming back down here, it's my only Tolumnia that's open at the moment, and that's golden. I'm going to try and remember this every single time this catches me. I think it's golden Sunray sunshine. Or it might be golden sunshine Sunray, but it's all the right words, not necessarily in the right order, but it's looking good. And surprisingly, because I've had so little, you know, actual sun coming in here, that's actually sparkling. Just, I don't know whether, I doubt if the camera will pick it up, but this area here is actually sparkling in the light. That are good. Lovely bloom, that one. The Dendrobium Kuniko is on its last legs. It's down to its last actual bloom that isn't fading. This one's about to drop on the floor. I could probably help it. Yep, there we go. This one will be gone in the next day or two, leaving one. There's no sign of any more buds coming on that yet, but they lasted well, and it was a bit of a surprise attack because I wasn't expecting that to bloom anyway. So that was a little bonus. We like those. And coming on round here, this is Dendrobium Spring Dream Apollon, one of 2, and that is actually Kiki's. And although that's a big, fat, strong cane, for the actual mother, you know, for what that plant should look like, it isn't. It's an immature cane. It's only about half the height it should be, because it's Kiki's in a pot. So I shouldn't really be letting that bloom, but we'll let it stay for a while. But as these blooms open, I'm not going to leave them on the plant too long. I have this theory that's got no science behind it, but when an orchid actually produces its blooms, in its little mindset, it's trying to perpetuate its species. And to do that, it needs blooms that then get pollinated. And while those blooms are there not pollinated, it's not going to do much else. It's waiting. So it's unlikely to produce new growths or a new root system. It's just on hold. So the sooner the blooms come off or the spike comes off, the more likely it is to come back into vegetative growth, because it knows it needs to get some more growth going to be able to produce some new spikes, buds and blooms to attempt to reproduce again. That's my theory, what I have. As I said, there's no science behind that. That's just, I've noticed it. Over the years, I've noticed that if I leave blooms on for the full length of time, I don't see new growths until they've finished. If I take them off early, those new growths come on a bit quicker. This is the other one that's out. Again, these are kikis. Shouldn't really be letting them bloom. But this particular potful has only got those 3 buds. And there's no sign of any others. So hopefully I can get this one growing a bit quicker than the other one that's still got unopened buds. So that's those. I'll turn this one round. This Dendrobium rhodostictum. Can I get those blooms in the light? Yes. Can I stop them waggling? Probably not. Now again, delicate blooms, but that white, now it's caught the light, is shimmering. It's sparkling, and I doubt if the camera can pick it up. But again, like a lot of the Latoria types, viewed from underneath, they take on a different spectacle. And Todd said that they look like birds in flight. And now I've held that up, yeah, I can really see it now. You know, wings outstretched and a sort of frilly tail hovering in the air. Yeah, I can see it now. Cheers, Todd. I didn't really get that before. It's just an angle thing, you know. And then up here we have what looks like a twinkle, and it's not. It's actually a proper Oncidium with a proper registered name. But what it is a twinkle of some description, crossed back with Sotoanum, which is one of the parents of the twinkles. That's mainly where they get their fragrance from. But relatively new plant, but not new enough that it hasn't been repotted. I've got at this one, basically. And the blooms are holding well on this one. Repotted in full bloom, don't worry about it. What I would worry about is repotting a Phalaenopsis with a spike that's got unopened buds. Those are highly likely to blast. You may not lose the blooms that are already open, but those that are open, they object to a major form of disturbance or stress, be it environmental or in the root section or anything like that. But if the buds are all already open, you're pretty safe, even with a Phalaenopsis. I've done it loads of times and haven't lost any, but I've had a few buds blast when I've done it to Phalaenopsis. Not with other plants though, not with other orchids. And we had a good look at this yesterday, the Zygopetalum, and just the one open at the moment, the others will follow on. And I had a comment, because I said it's a little odd for the second bud to open before the first one. And somebody else said that on their zygos that happens more often than not. It seems that this one, the second bud opens first. Now that's weird. Normally it's the first one, and they progress up the spike towards the smaller ones at the top. So that's that one. That's Zygopetalum Louisendorf. And sorry about the video yesterday, I think it was, where I actually spelt the name wrong. But it was pointed out, thank you, and taken on board and amended. Even though I couldn't amend the title of the video, it's inbuilt, but I could amend the title in the description of the video, which I did promptly. My tiny twinkle has opened, and it is just literally a miniature version of a twinkle. I mean, even if I just put that alongside that one, you can see the bulbs of that one in the pot are larger than the little bulbs on this one. As twinkles go, this is the smallest one I've ever come across. You know, these are mature bulbs, not shriveled or anything like that. That is their size. And we've got quite a few spikes on that to come down the line. So this is going to open in stages. Yeah, this one's open, that one's trying to, and the others will follow on. This will probably be the last one here. Right, where are we now? Nothing else in that section. Nope. Oh, sorry. There's something lurking down there that I'm hoping, it's a bud that has blasted in the past, and I'm just hoping this one may hang in there, but it's not open yet, so it doesn't come into today. And the only one in this section over here is Dendrobium moniliforme, and what I'm hoping now is that with the extra light, the camera might just pick up the pink tinges, because it shows on camera as pure white, and it isn't. It has genuine pink tinges on it. First one to open that's been open a while now is going over. Plenty more buds to come, and they don't last long. Dendrobium moniliforme, this is variegata, so it's got the nice variegated leaves. But the blooms themselves don't last long. I would say around 2 weeks. Maybe as little as 10 days, certainly if the temperatures were warmer. So it's a very short-lived bloom, and under normal circumstances, certainly for me, each spike only has one bloom, but I have known it to have more. You know, I've seen other people's plants where there's one there. Yeah, there's a spike there that's actually got 2 buds. But most of these are coming out with single buds this time round. It's not that strong a plant. It virtually lost its root system a while back, and it's had to regenerate that root system to try and support the latest 2 growths, which it's done now. The root system's okay. It does have 1 new growth starting, and I suspect after this flush of blooms in this area, it will start pushing out some more new growths. Days are getting longer, all that sort of stuff, slowly but surely. Right, the next bit I'll have to do separately because I've got to go digging into the shady characters. And just as I was about to stick my head in the shady characters, I noticed this. It's changed its name. I think it's now called Dinema polybulbon, whatever a Dinema is. Never heard of it. I think it was Epidendrum before that. Almost perfection. I'm not going to be able to get too close because I'm hand holding the camera. Tiniest of little blooms. They are fragrant, but as far as colours go, a delicate straw yellow, brown centre, gorgeous shaped, pure white lip with the delicatest yellow stripe down the centre, and fragrant. Now this, although this looks like quite a mature plant, it isn't. It's about 8 plants. I had a massive plant and I took all the growing tips off, all the leads, and remounted them because the older part of the plant was starting to get a bit tatty. So I started the plant again, and as such, each bit of this is effectively now a young plant. So I wasn't expecting any blooms. It's growing nicely. You know, it's pushed up some really good extensions up the mount and outwards and out to the sides, but I wasn't expecting it to bloom because in effect I've, you know, juvenated the plant by cutting all the leads off, so they lost their backup. But we do have 1 little bloom. I think that'll probably be it. I don't think there'll be any more. It's just a piece that probably was a little bit more mature. Lovely little bloom though. I think I've got quite a close-up still of that. If I have, I'll put the pop-up up as well so you can get a better look, because I can't get in close to a tiny little bloom like that. My camera doesn't do those real close-ups, and yet all you people using your phones you can get right in, you know, whereas this one won't have it. The only thing I could try is zoom, I suppose. See if that'll do it. It'll probably go out of focus though. Yeah, there she blows. We'll work with the pop-up because I know I've got a reasonably good still of that. But yeah, it's coming on. The plant's growing well, and a single little bloom. I'll have to get, now that I've put that in the sun to film it, that will probably spark off the fragrance. That wasn't open last time I watered it. I saw the bud, but I wasn't expecting it. So yeah, lovely little blooms. You can imagine when the plant gets a bit bigger and it's absolutely covered in those little blooms. I'll let you know. I've got two Masdevallias out at the moment. You've seen them both before. This is a new acquisition. This came from Rislington and was in fact a present, so greatly appreciated. That's a nice Masdevallia bloom. It's a good size. It's the typical shape, triangular, with three tails heading off in, literally at the same angle away from the plant. Lovely spotted pattern and a lovely base colour, lovely pale yellow with gorgeous reddish purple spotting. Smashing bloom, that one. Well pleased with that. And that's it's decuman crossed with veitchiana. So luckily the decuman adds a bit of heat tolerance in there because veitchiana's a real cold grower. And talking of cold growers, one of the ultimates is this one up here, Masdevallia ignea. I think this is either my third or my fourth attempt to grow this. My failure in the past was down to getting tiny little divisions, weak, wishy-washy plants in the summertime when they're not going to grow that well anyway. So I failed miserably with these in the past. I don't intend failing with this one. This one lives in the direct line of fire of a little 6-inch computer fan 24/7. That's about as cool as I can get it. It's in like a permanent breeze of cool air. The problem with this plant is it's potted far too high, or it's grown away from the media it was once in. So I need to get this out of the pot and get the base of the plant sorted out. I don't think the media is breaking down, the moss. Oh, I don't know, it's starting to smell a bit mushroomy. So I think that's got to be repotted. I'm not losing that plant. And there's quite a lot of signs of new root growth in here. So, now wouldn't be a bad time to do it. And then it can get itself established while it's cool and not have to struggle with heat and a repot. That could be its downfall. Gorgeous colour. The depth of colour probably won't show that good on the camera, but it is a deep orangey red with deeper red veining and then a more orangey look to the centre. And as Masdevallias go, it's an unusual shape because there's no tails, only the tiniest of tails, these two. And the top tail curves like a hood and doesn't stick bolt upright like a lot of Masdevallias do. But this one's been used in so many hybrids, and it's used to get that colour into the Masdevallia hybrids. Unfortunately, it takes its lack of tolerance with any form of heat with it. So anything that's got that in as a hybrid is liable to be a cool to cold grower and not very tolerant of heat at all. That's Masdevallia ignea. Now, it's my daughter's favourite Masdevallia, and I think it's a colour thing rather than a shape. But that's a good plant. Let's try and keep it that way. Right, the Restrepias often get missed out when I'm filming the blooms simply because they are quite delicate and small blooms, and to do them serious justice needs the tripod. And today I haven't got time, but nonetheless we can still see the ones that are blooming. Out of my medium to large size ones, 3 are in bloom at the moment. This species is Restrepia falkenbergii, and quite honestly I can reasonably safely say it's always in bloom. I put it down as the category comes and goes, but it's got into a reasonable sized plant now that it's even blooming on the kikis that are produced at the base of the leaves. So it's blooming from all over the place. If you own a Restrepia, as you can see, they can look incredibly tatty, but they don't take much to tidy them up. All you've got to do is get to the base of the leaves and have a look to see where it's bloomed before and just trim them back. But make sure you don't cut any new ones off that are just starting. But these bits here can be tidied. And, you know, any older leaves that are starting to fade can be trimmed, and they can be made to look quite tidy plants. But it is fiddly, and it is very easy to knock off the new buds while you're trying to take those old spindly bits off. So that's that one. I think that's the one I've had the longest. And that was bought as a plant about this big some time ago. Now I'm filming this for advice. This is Restrepia guttulata, yeah, and it's just coming into bloom. It's got a bud on this leaf, a bud on this leaf, and what yesterday was an open bloom, and it opened 2 days ago. So do these blooms really only last 2 or 3 days? Because if they do, that might have to go to somebody else because it's not earning its keep. But that bloom was fully open last time I looked at it, and now it's closed. And that's a very, very short-lived bloom. It's a young plant. That was actually a present from Oliver, and it's taken a long time to get to start blooming, but at least it is now. But it looks like they're very short-lived. And then over here we've got this one for Restrepia blooms. Let's see if I can get one in the sun. They're quite large, as Restrepia blooms go. You know, you're probably looking at 3 inches from top to bottom, even though it's like a curved shape, not bolt upright. Lovely patterning on this one. Nice sort of bronzy colour as a base, and then the stripes are actually made up of spots, and they're a nice red colour, and then the spotting nearer the centre of the plant is a deep, deep red. Deep sort of burgundy colour. This one's got a lot of blooms and many more to come. It's just having a bit of a spurt at the moment. I mean, 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 I think actually open. Another couple to come here. Some more to come up round here. So this one's growing and blooming quite nicely now. That's one of the Eric Young ones, and that is Houlisse. Again, pop-ups because my French is lousy. And then this one's just coming into bloom. This one hasn't bloomed for a while. It's had a bit of a holiday. And if you look, I'll see if I can get 2 quite close together. Yeah, the falkenbergii and this one are almost identical, but this one's got a richer colouring on it and is a bigger bloom. Not a huge bloom, but bigger. And this one's, as I said, it's having a bit of a flurry at the moment. There's 4 out, 1 just gone, and more to come. So this one's having a bit of a flurry. And this is Handois. This is probably what... It's difficult to say what is my favourite. This is probably my favourite because it was my first, but you've got to get in really close to appreciate it. Whereas this one is slightly larger and very similar. So this might be taking over as the favourite because you can see it more from a distance. So that's the Restrepias that are out at the moment. I've only got I've got some young plants that are coming on, and one other mature plant that's along the size of this one that currently has no blooms on. Now this is Dracula pusilla species, and my first true Dracula, because I do have a cross between a Dracula and a Masdevallia that so far has never bloomed. I've had that one a while. This was my first true Dracula, which I got, I can't remember whether I got it at the autumn show or the last spring show, but last year sometime anyway. And this looks as though it's going to be one of those that does a lot of blooms, looking at all the spikes coming out. I mean, I've actually got 3 actual blooms at the moment, and this spike is extending. So it also looks like it's capable of being a sequential bloomer once the spikes get going. But I think I'm singularly unimpressed by the blooms. They stay closed in a cup shape, so you've got a job to see the inside. They are tiny, so I might not keep that one. That might go on to somebody else. But it obviously likes to bloom. You know, there's a good number of spikes coming out of there. So that's Dracula pusilla. And the last one for today is up in the roof. This is Dracula Bella. And you might say, what the hell have you got a Dracula up in the roof for? That's why. It's opened. That is a large and absolutely stunning bloom. You see the way the lip nods? It's on a very, very delicate hinge, part of the pollination process. That one's not going anywhere, that one's staying for sure. And the reason I got this is because it is one of the larger Dracula blooms. I don't think this will be a sequential bloomer, not with a bloom that big on that spike. But there we go, we finally get to see it. It is quite a spectacle. The tails are probably 3 inches long. So from top to bottom, that's a good 6 inches plus, that bloom. I like that one. I like that one a lot. Delicate colouring, gorgeous patterning. So there we go. Dracula Bella finally graces our presence. And I did manage not to blast the bud this time. So there we go. And no, it doesn't live up there. It actually lives down there with the other shady characters. But I've had to go so careful with that spike. And this is a sort of problem with the Draculas. Although I love them, they do tend to hang downwards. They bloom mainly from the base of the pot, so you have to have an open pot. And they need to stay moist. So you've got an open pot with loads of air that dries out really fast that needs to stay moist. That's good fun. And most of the blooms end up like this. And the way to view them is from underneath. And to be able to do that on a long-term basis, the plants need to go up high. And where is the warmest place? Up high. When they don't need to be warm, they need to stay cool. So they are a little bit of a nuisance. I don't have that problem with the Masdevallias because their spikes push upwards. And their blooms do tend to lend themselves to being viewed from the side. You know, they open what I call flat, that way, not that way. Or that way, like the zygos do. Have you ever noticed Zygopetalums point to the sky? They don't open like that, they tend to open like that. And these basically hang downwards. So I'm stuck with that, that is their trait, and the majority of them are like that. They hang downwards, best viewed from underneath, and where this one lives, to view it from underneath, I'd have to lie on my back on the floor and look up at it, and we're not doing that. We nearly had a close encounter with the floor yesterday. A slight overbalancing saga. I don't plan on doing that, but sometimes it happens. That's what comes of crouching down and then trying to get up without, you know, just literally from a crouch standing without holding on to anything. I'm getting old. Anyway, very pleased to see that one. I love the way that lip moves. But I don't want to waggle it about too much in case the flipping thing pollinates. There we go then. That's everything in bloom on the 8th, and I'll be back tomorrow with possibly a bit of kitchen time. Not quite sure what I'm up to tomorrow yet, but I watered everything in here yesterday except the holy clay pot, so that's all I've got to do today. And I need to get on with it. And little clue, there's a little splash of purple up there. Well, that bloom's not open yet, so it's not allowed. It's everything in bloom, not everything about to be. See you next time. Thanks for dropping by.